Sephardi Oriental Rabbanim over here. And tonight we're just going to explore a few of the highlights of a famous rabbi. His name was Rabbi Eliyahu Benamozegh. And he was born, I believe, in English year 1823, to be precise, on 24th of April of that year. This was just about 202 years ago. He passed away right at the start of the 20th century on the 6th of February in the year 1900. Naturally, that was, I believe, Zain Adar Aleph of that specific month, respectively. And very, very famous rabbi of his time. Let's explore a few of the highlights of the rabbi's life. He'd go on to become also מקובל, a philosopher, פרשן המקרא also. So let's explore a few of the tidbits with regards to the rabbi's life. So it could be pronounced different ways. He was Eliyahu or Elia, I think, and he was an Italian Sephardic rabbi. He was known as a Kabbalist at a point in time. He was quite very well known, and I think in his era in of its own, he was, let's just say, one of the most well known among Italian Jewish scholars, respectively. He would be, I think, serving for a half a century as a rabbi of, let's just say, a very important Jewish community in the area of Livorno, and very, very interesting enough. And I think it's commentated over here. I can actually see that the Piazza Ben-Omer now commemorates his name and distinction. I think his major work was Israel and Humanity in 1863, and I think later on it will be translated in English by Dr. Mordechai Luria in 1995. We're talking about 30 years ago. Okay, so he was born in Livorno. Remember, Livorno at that point in time had a large Jewish community. That actually his family in Ben-Amozeg means the son of Amazigh over here. His father happened to be Avram, and his mother happened to be Clara. They were Moroccan Jewish natives of the area of Fez. Now, remember, in this series, we've spoken about the area of Fez on many occasions before inside this series. In fact, his father was Avram ben Jito, I believe. And I believe his mother, to give a full title, was Clara, but Avram Raphael Kuriat. I think he happened to be a Dayan, a judge inside Mojdor and Livorno in his days itself. This was his father-in-law. I believe we possibly spoke about Rav Raphael Kuriat in a separate class. He actually passed away in the year 1805, I think September 1805 to be precise. So yeah, so that is another interesting thing. So I believe they were Moroccan Jews from the area of Fez in Morocco, and it's reported over, I believe, that I think his mother, if I'm not mistaken, passed away when he was only 4 years of age. I'm not too sure about his father, if it was the same period or not. But he would go on to enter a school at a young age. He was, let's just say, at a young age, imbued with elementary sciences. He would receive tuition in Hebrew, in English, and in French, and was very multilingual, let's just say, fluent in various different languages. And he really got into the study and devoted himself to study philosophy and theology, let's just say, which was able, these different topics in of itself at that point in time within regards to him, to reconcile each other. I think when he was 25 years of age, he would enter the more commercial side of a career. He would spend, let's say, even his leisure time in study. And he had a tendency, let's just say, to study sciences, and an active religious life caused him, let's say, to abandon the pursuit of wealth. So he could have easily become a very, very wealthy person, but he really, really was into religion, but at the same time into science also. He would begin to publish scientific and, let's say, apologetic works. I'm just reading the article here from Wikipedia, in which he revealed, let's say, obviously he had a huge attachment at the time while he was learning Torah and on Jewish traditions, and he would try and learn Kabbalah over there. He was appointed, I think, at a late stage, a rabbi and a professor of theology at the rabbinical school of his native town. And his other, let's just say, occupations, notwithstanding, he would continue to write and defend Jewish traditions pretty much until the time he passed away in Livorno. Now, we're on the topic of religious universalism over here. And Rabbi Ben-Amozegh's works are noted, let's just say, it was more his works are free and uninhabited, the Wikipedia actually describes it as, of various non-Jewish religious sources. I think, especially, if I'm not mistaken, the New Testament and ancient pagan mythology. Now, I believe other communities would be very thinking that this was not appropriate whatsoever, especially the Syrian community. So I don't think they would study any of his works, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if it was limited to a specific city in Syria or the entire Jewish community over there, but they would warn against maybe some of the works that he was attaching himself to. Let's say Rabbi Benamozegh even considered, it's reported over here, that the Gospels to be a high, valuable Jewish medrash. He would have thought it. He would equate that potentially or near it to Talmudic Agada. This was respected. Now it's spoken about Jesus over here. Actually, I see inside the thing. He would have seen him to have been a righteous Jew at one stage in time. So it's reported over here about he would criticize obviously religious innovations of Paul and invention of Christianity as a separate religion. Obviously, which would go on to provoke the split of early Christianity from Judaism. So these are important things that to note within regards to the rabbi himself. Obviously, me personally, if someone gives me a New Testament, I'll just throw it away straight away and tell the person to buzz off. This is something we don't value whatsoever in many of our circles over here. But maybe this approach, it's reported over he took. He had theological works where he would suggest to explain the Christian dogmas, for example, of Trinity and incarnation, let's just say as an oversimplified and let's just say a distorted version of Kabbalist, let's just say Kabbalistic pantheistic doctrine, let's just say in of itself, of divine emanations. What I'm just reading over the Wikipedia article over here. He would, I think, disagree with the Trinitarian Christian theology, but he considered it, unlike most other Orthodox rabbis, as an erroneous misunderstanding of subtle, let's say, Kabbalistic doctrines rather than a major deviation of monotheism. Over here, this was reported over. He claimed that Christianity is, let's say, too monotheistic in comparison with the Kabbalah. Let's just say that's what's reported over here, which would view, let's say, pagan deities in their essence as partial manifestations of the absolute. He would himself, Ben-Amozegh, would criticize a Christian view, let's just say, of Jesus as incarnated God on monistic or pantheistic ground. Now, we in Hebrew we don't mention him by his name. We say maybe it's another person or this specific person within regards to the person we just mentioned about. According to, let's say, Ben-Amozegh's, Rabbi Benamozegh's Kabbalistic view, the entire world is an incarnation of the Shekhinah, the feminine aspect of divinity. It's reported over, he believed that Hinduism is closer in this respect to mystical Judaism than Christianity over here. So we're not really talking about Christianity much. I wouldn't advise anyone to really learn about it, but we're just learning a bit about his biography of what apparently he held over here. He offered a novel mystical interpretation of Ludwig Feuerbach's, let's say, atheistic philosophy. I think Feuerbach actually wrote that God is a product of a human mind. Obviously, we don't believe in this whatsoever, what he says. But Ben-Amozegh explained that Feuerbach is, in a way, potentially right. However, what people call, let's say, God is a limited human perception of the apophatic or infinite absolute over here. Let's just say there's much more we can say within regards to that. I think he had a particular interest of evolutionary theory and, let's say, its universal implications. I think Ben-Amozegh came to the view that Darwin's theory of the common, let's say, descent of all life as evidence in support of Kabbalistic teachings, which he would synthesize to offer a majestic vision of cosmic evolution with radical implications for understanding, let's say, development of morality and religion itself. Now, his universalist views were, I think, later on promoted by Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz, interesting enough. I'm not too sure to a full degree or to partial degree, who would make, let's say, a similar attempt to unify all major world religions and philosophies in of itself. Now, we can mention more within regards to Rabbi. He considered himself an Italian patriarch and a cosmopolitan. He believed that authentic mystical core of the Jewish tradition he called, I think, Hebraism, as opposed to more isolationist, exoteric Judaism, which is profoundly universal and capable of uniting all world religions. and nations, let's just say, into a brotherly cosmopolitan network. He believed in the unique spiritual mission of the Jewish people. His ideas of Jewish chosenness was far from narrow particularism, it's reported over. According to his worldview, the Jews were chosen to serve the humanity, let's just say, as a Kohanic people, proving a common mystical ground that transcends the boundaries of nations and religious, let's say, traditions in of itself. So we could say more within regards to that. He was a staunch Italian patriot. He would write a daring formulation based on the Jewish declaration of faith. O Israelites, that you will always love Italy, that you will love her with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is what I'm just quoting over here, which he said. Very interesting. So let's look at some of the works that he wrote. There was a lot of different books he would go on to write. So we'll just explore it now. His Torah works. Okay, I'll say it in English. The Emet Mafkia. I think the fear of the opponent. It was refutation. This work on Rabbi Eliyahu of Medena's, let's just say, questionings of Kabbalah, respectively, I think it was printed in Lehorn in the year 1858. Then there was Ger Tzedek, which was notes on Targum Uclus, I believe, if not mistaken. Then Ner David, which is commentary on the book of Tehillim, Psalms. It was published, I believe, in the year 1858. And the La Mikra, which is a matrix of scripture, which is a commentary on, let's say, the Torah, containing critical, philosophical, archaeological, and scientific notes. This is history, law, so on and so forth. Then there was a Ta'am Leshad, which was, let's just say, a refutation of Rabbi Shmuel David Luzato's dialogue on the Kabbalah. I think that was printed in 1863. We spoke about Rabbi Luzato on a previous video, which I recommend everyone to look at. Then the Spinoza et la Kabbal. I think that was printed in Paris in the 1863. Later on, I think it was just recently printed in the year 2024. The Mebo Kelali, which is General Introduction to Traditions of Judaism, was published actually in Hal, Lebanon in the year 1864. Then there was a Storia de Gil Esseni, which was printed in Florence in 1865. And the Morale Juve et Morale Chrétien, I believe. I'm pronouncing it, I think, French over here. That was printed in the year 1867. And I think he would actually do a book on Jewish and Christian ethics with this was a criticism of Mohammedism. This was in the 1873. And there was other works also, including Theologia Dogmatica et Apologetica. I think that was printed in Lehorn in the year 1877. This was more on metaphysics. There's more books. Le Crime de la Coordonnance, Alekumat, that was in 1881. Then the Yane Be'esh. I think it was discussion. He will actually talk about the topic, I believe, over here, of cremation from the Bible and from the Talmud in the year 1886. Remember, we don't cremate, we do a proper burial, we don't do cremation in the Jewish religion. I recommend everyone to learn about that. Then the Israel et Lehemu Night. I think it was a discussion of universal religion and the roles of and relationships between Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. I think it was printed actually in the year 1914. So as you can see, that was been nearly 15 years after he passed away. So he was a very worldly rabbi. He was very into, let's just say, interfaith, using interfaith also to some degree, and would dedicate a lot of his time to the Torah. I think, as I said before, a lot could be mentioned within regards about him, but I'd recommend everyone to research him online or inside the books, the history of the maybe other books if they are quoting him or his community. And he was a famous rabbi. He passed away, I believe, in 1900. He did. So we're talking about 125 years ago here from time recording. Passed away right at the start of the 20th century in the year 1900, to be precise, on 6th of February. I believe that was the 7th of Adar of that month of that year, respectively. So please, everyone, subscribe to the channel. If you dissent from any of these famous rabbanim we are speaking about, please let me know. I would love to hear more. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to the channel. We're nearing 7,000 subscribers. So wishing you all a fantastic day. Take care and be well, everyone. Thank you very much for watching.